All right. So I'm kind of thinking of an idea here. Well, this idea came to me. So I have my T-shirt off, and I have an idea. So just hear my ass out. Yeah, just hear my ass out. Now, imagine, if you will, like a show like the WWE and UFC and ECW and WCW and bare knuckle fighting and like all this shit combined on the one TV show. And these guys would find, and they would basically do all kinds of things because, like I watched the Cobra Kai episodes last night. Yeah, well, I watched them last night, and you know, and like they had a sanctioned event, that turned out to be a big, huge brawl, and when when I was sitting there, when I was sitting there and I was watching the show, I thought to myself, dude, imagine, if you will, like two fighters basically getting in, like just basically two fighters and a referee. They pick a destination, they go there, and they fight. Um, and and these two fighters, they don't know who the hell they are. They're just two fighters. It could be like, a bum fighting a businessman, or and take the movie Fight Club for instance. And take the movie Fight Club for instance. Now, these people, they sign a waiver. If what happens happens. And it's like, and now the fighters don't know anything about each other. They signed up for this. They signed a waiver. They basically come out and they fight, and and they they check the background check. So, if it's transgender things that your issues are with or whatever, like say that this guy, he says he wants to be a woman, but he wants to fight. Now, it's not going to be a transgender guy who's got, like looks like the physique of the Hulk or the Rock or whatever, fighting some, little Chun Li type kind of girl. But that's what happens in Street Fighter, man. So remember in Street Fighter or in Fatal Fury or any of those video games, when you would fight, it would be two characters. It didn't matter if it was male or female or whatever. They would fight each other. Now, they didn't fight each other to the death, but in Mortal Kombat, the video game, they would fight to the point where, like, you could rip someone's skull right out of their head, or you could, whatever, and you could set them on fire, or or anything like that. But you know, and then when they were supposedly supposed to be killed, they turned into a skeleton. They turned into a skull or something. But hey, what's up, dude? Hey, Sean, what's going on, man? But imagine, if you will, two fighters don't know anything about each other. They just get into a street fight. They find, so it's got a referee and two fighters. I'm good, man. I'm doing a thing about a idea for a fighting show that came into my head, and I think it's a really good idea. And I'm just gonna wing it. So, um, but just listen to me, hear me out. So it's a referee and two fighters don't know each other. Basically, it's got basically the Street Fighter, the Def Jam Fight for New York, you know, kind of like storyline. Like these two guys. Yeah, I'm glad you're good, man. I'm good too. I'm doing all right. I'm living my life and enjoying every day. I couldn't sleep because I had to get this off my chest. Um, so basically, what these two guys do is basically these two guys or these people, these people will literally fight a fight and it'll go down, whoever, wants to fight. And the referee is there to basically, to stop it enough to where, to where, if it gets that far out of hand, the referee can, he can call the fight. He's the last line of defense, and and but see, like with with wrestling, with wrestling and everything, there's so many different kinds of things that wrestling, like AEW wrestling, they say that everything is over the top, like everything is completely and utterly like hardcore. I mean, back in the day, remember when Cactus Jack used to like, put thumbtacks on the ground. He used to spread thumbtacks on the ground, and then he would throw, he would fall into the thumbtacks, and he'd have thumbtacks stuck to his forehead and everything else, and all these kinds of different, all these different kinds of wrestling moves could be used in street fights if you really and truly thought it would be kind of cool, like an armbar takedown. Imagine like somebody putting a rear naked choke on somebody and they're fighting in the goddamn. But what I'm trying to say is that basically every fighter has started somewhere in their life, and every fight has turned out to be something, you know, has every fighter has started somewhere, and then they've been, they've they've started, you know, they've started out on, well, some people have started out on Ohio Valley Wrestling, for God's sakes. I mean, there's people who started out on Ohio Valley. They started on ECW. They started on WCW. They started on, all kinds of different shows. But basically, all these different fighting platforms all base everything off of. They base everything off of a street fight, because people that watch the UFC, people that watch the UFC sit there and they think, they sit there and they think, hey, the UFC is so much different than the WWE because they don't do some of the same moves. Well, basically they do. Some of the arm takedowns, some of the strikes, like the punches and the jabs and everything else, they're all used. The kicks, the chops. I mean, you slap a dude in the chest and like you do an open palm strike. You take your palm and you go like this and you palm strike somebody. That is a, a move that sumo wrestlers use to fight back an opponent. They use the palm strike. Yeah, they use an open hand palm strike. And some of them will slap. They'll slap and they'll hit you right here in the chest and it hurts. And literally it hurts. It literally hurts to the point where you actually feel like you're getting hit by a 2x4 or a piece of wood. Okay. And so there was a move called the 100 hand slap. And you guys have seen, in Street Fighter, you guys have seen it um, when E Honda goes like, "Pa, pa, 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 pa," and his hand looks like it's moving so many times that That's a 100 hand. That's basically a 100 hand strike. And then when Chun Li does her kick, when she does her kick, her leg is moving so many, so many times per second that you know her leg is moving so many times per second that she's kicking somebody about 17 times. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I mean, she's kicking that many times. But see, the thing is that when you fight between these fighters, it doesn't matter if you're male, female, woman, transgender, anything like that. You're fighting between a man versus a woman or a woman versus a man, but you're fighting in a Street Fighter atmosphere. And everybody thinks that like, um, you basically, you basically, you got, you basically got a situation where you have a person fighting a person, man, woman, you know, woman versus woman, or male versus male, and and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who you are. It matters where you fight in your location. Now, here's the thing. So basically, imagine two fighters just in a Street Fighter setting. Basically, they fight at like um, they fight at like a Home Depot. Imagine fighting at a Home Depot. Now you lock up all the weapons, or you lock up all the tools that could puncture somebody, like like a pickaxe or like an axe or something. You have those locked up, but they could still get to them if they needed to go that route. I mean, yes, you hit somebody with an axe, you could cut them, and if they want to keep on fighting, they just basically, what these people will do is these people will sign a contract. Basically, they'll sign a contract to where it's no holds bar, fight to the death kind of thing, but they won't die. Well, they could. I mean, you could get killed. Yes. We have enough caution tape for that. We have enough caution tape for that. But yeah. Well, the thing is that like fighters sit here and they say that they're going to tear someone's head off, or they say they're going to kill somebody, or they say they're going to do something, but don't want they don't literally want to kill somebody. They want to fight. They want to fight. They want to do something because, okay, I've watched so many different kinds of fights. I've watched like hardcore matches between Mick Foley and the Undertaker, to where they've jumped off of a steel cage, and literally Mick Foley. I mean, I don't know how he did it, but he survived, and then the Undertaker has survived. They've put their body through a lot of hardcore things, you know. And people sit there and they say that wrestling's fake. No, I don't think wrestling's fake at all. I actually think that wrestling, UFC, ECW, and even backyard wrestling. I remember people doing backyard wrestling. Backyard wrestling was one of my favorite things in the entire world to watch. Um, the only reason why, when I do my commentary for like WWE matches or anything like that, is because the commentary is crap, because they can't say what they want to say because it's made for kids, and kids watch it. Kids do. I mean, kids watch these wrestlers and they dream someday that they're going to be these wrestlers, and and these kids love it. But I don't want to sit here and say that kids should be, subjected to this kind of stuff. But like video games like Grand Theft Auto, okay? Now, Grand Theft Auto basically shows people stealing cars and then taking a gun and shooting somebody. Well, in my wrestling or my fighting series, you can't use guns. No, you can't use guns, because the thing is a gun is pretty much, I say a gun To be 100% honest with you, shooting a person with a gun is like a coward's way out. Is Yes, it is. I think when you shoot somebody with a gun, you're basically just proving that you can't fight. So if we got rid of all the guns in the world, we can still fight. We can still use objects. We can still use axes. We can still use swords. You can use shields. You could use everything. Bows and arrows, yeah, bows and arrows. You can't use those because you can shoot somebody with them. If you can shoot somebody with it, you can't use it. That's what I say. Because crossbows and all that kind of stuff, I think shooting somebody is just the worst thing in the world. You can't Shooting somebody is the worst thing you could possibly ever do. So shooting people like with a gun, crossbow, you know, bow and arrow, all that kind of stuff is just not used in street fighting. So yeah, so you take all that kind of stuff out of it, and you basically fight. You you use right here. These are what were given to you to protect you in any kind of situation. You can block, you can fight back, you can grab. I mean, you can use these to your advantage. You can use your legs to your advantage. I mean, even if you think about it, like take the Big Show or take Brock Lesnar or anybody like that. Those type of guys can actually go down. And guys like Rey Mysterio and guys that are littler fighters can actually take down a big guy by using their legs and kicking them in the legs and taking their legs out from underneath them. All you have to do is understand your strategy, understand your opponent. But see, when you fight these opponents, you don't know who you're fighting. All you get is basically you get a text message that says you're fighting this person. And that's before the match even starts. And you're in a situation where you two will meet like at a bar. You'll have a bar situation. And the only thing that could lead to a bar situation is being hit by a bottle, hit by a chair, hit by anything. But you can't use the object to kill somebody. You can't use it to stab somebody. You can't use the glass from the broken bottle to stab somebody. No. But the thing is 90% of these people, these fighters, when they get cut up, I remember back in the day that wrestlers, they used to have, like, some wrestlers used to have, like, like they would have uh, the razor blade, and they would cut their forehead, and then they would make it look like they hurt themselves or whatever. And I remember when people used to always say that wrestling was so fake, but dude, I'm the kind of person who thinks that wrestling is not fake. I love wrestling. I love wrestling. I love UFC. I love all the different kinds of fightings. But the thing is that, if I was seriously in a situation where I was fighting somebody, dude, I probably would get hurt so bad that I'd probably end up dead from it. Because the thing is I don't even know where to even start to fight if I was to fight somebody, because I don't even know where to even go, because I'm one of these kind of people who just don't want to who don't want to fight somebody unless I really and truly have to. Um, but most of the time, when a fight happens, because I watched these videos on YouTube one time of, like, just regular, like fights. Like, it was a YouTube video, and basically what it was this one kid would square off against another kid, and basically they would call him names, get under his skin, and then they would start fighting. And then what happened with these two would just go at each other. Yeah, they would just literally start going at each other, and then one kid, you know, would punch another kid so hard that kid would just drop and like lay down on the ground, and will just lay down on the ground and be done. But the kid would walk away, and it'd be over with and be done with and everything else. Um, and he would just basically just be done. And he'd be laying there on the ground, and then people would be like, and then people would be like, would would be like, oh, they would walk away with some guy, and they would walk away with some guy, and then they'd be like cheering his name on, but he would fight in a school setting, and it'd be on TV. Yeah, it would be on it would be on someone's phone. Somebody would record it, and then they would put it up on YouTube, and then it would be looked down as bullying and fighting and everything else. Now, see, the one thing about the one thing about that kind of fighting is that there's no referee. And but what happened was after the kid knocked the other kid down, it was over. It was done with. The one kid realized that he won the fight and it was over. But some people take it too far. They keep on sitting there going and going and going and going on somebody until they kill somebody, which is not what I want to happen in any of my fights. If any of like if anybody on well on like okay, so I'm talking about an idea for a show, but it'll probably never happen because everything has already been done. And the movie Fight Club, when that came out, that was basically an adaptation of what my kind of fighting would be. Basically, people would just meet in an underground place and have a bare knuckle street fight. That's basically what it would be. But they wouldn't fight to the death. I mean, if the one person couldn't go on any further, they would stop the fight. They'd throw in a towel, they would be done with it, and they would go on. But then they would see how many views they got because somebody was filming it on a cell phone. And that's what a lot of people, do nowadays is you can go on YouTube, you can type in street fights, and you'll come up what will come up is the video game Street Fighter. Yeah, some of those fights will come up, but also there'll be things like bum fights. Have you ever like there'll be a thing where there'll be like bum fights where like these guys will there was these two guys that started up bum fights, and what they were was these guys would basically come out and they would find two bums on the street, that one was sitting under a newspaper, the other one was sitting under a thing, and he'd be like, hey, if I paid you $200 to punch that bum over there, would you go do it? And then they would start fighting, and they would get it all on their YouTube on their phone, and whoever won out of the two bums, they would give that guy 200 fucking dollars, and then he would basically they would give him a bottle of booze or whatever, and then he would piss on the other guy, and they would do kind of like different, they would go down, and they would fight, and they would fight to the death, and they would fight to the death, and they would do what they have to do, but those two aren't going to kill each other. One's going to knock the other one out, and then it's going to be over with, and that's it. But I don't know, and but see, other people when they have like different kinds of when other people want to start different fighting ideas. I mean, I probably will do this YouTube video and somebody will probably take my idea, and I don't really care. I'm not trying to start anything, dude. I don't have the money to even start an organization, let alone even be an elf. I mean, hell, I play a Santa Claus. I play a non-traditional Santa Claus called Camo Claus, but the thing is that I'm not even trying to start a, a program or anything like that. I just think that what they need to do is they need to bring the UFC, they need to bring the WWE, they need to bring like bare knuckle fighting, they need to bring the slap box. Have you guys ever seen that slap fighting where the guy is basically not supposed to flinch or move? He's supposed to stand directly still and then take a slap to the face. Yeah, from another guy. And it puts these yeah, and there's male and female versions of this, but females fight females and males fight males. And basically, what it is these two people, they sit at like an arm wrestling podium. Yeah, it's like an arm wrestling podium, and the person has to sit still, and take a slap. And then after they take a slap, then they get themselves composure, and then they have a guy check to see if they're okay, and then he turns around and then he slaps it off. So if you watch the movie Red One, which is the movie that stars The Rock, and it's about Santa Claus and everything else, they have a thing called slapschlagen, which is a slap fighting. And basically one person slaps the person and then the other person slaps another person. And they fight Krampus, and Krampus supposedly is the Slapschlagen champion. It's called Krampusschlagen. That's the name of the sport. And he hits he hits the Rock, and then the Rock's like, all right, my turn. And the Rock hits him back and knocks his crap out of him or whatever. But anyway, but see, imagine if they took like every fighting that there was imaginable, like street fighting, like a boxing match, a kickboxing match, like a karate fighting match, UFC, ECW, ACW, WWE, and they put it all together into one big street fighting, big street fighting, yeah, they put it in a big street fighting venue. But I mean, the fans, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where you are. These fights will happen. Like, say you're at just some random biker bar. Yeah. And these two guys or these two girls or this guy and this girl end up fighting. They end up fighting, and and they end up fighting. They get a text message, they get a text message, hey, you're supposed to meet at this place at this time, and all of a sudden they end up meeting, and they end up fighting. It doesn't matter if they're in a business suit. It doesn't matter if they're in, like a onesie. It doesn't matter. You're fighting where you are. So like a business guy can fight a bum. It doesn't matter. As long as you have a cell phone, you're throwing down. So it's kind of like Pokemon Go, but you're fighting in the middle. Yeah, you're fighting in the middle of the thing, and then what happens is as soon as the fight starts, the cameras start rolling, and yeah, the cameras start rolling. So like you could be at a Home Depot, and then all of a sudden you're within five, well, you're in two different aisles, and then all of a sudden your phone goes off and somebody else's phone goes off, but you have to be a member of this fight club, or you have to be a member of this club. And what it is you signed a waiver, you signed a thing, and if the cameras, basically it's someone's cell phone, it goes off, and then you two are in the same area and you start fighting, and there's a ref that shows up. He wears a ref outfit, like he's got a zebra outfit. It's basically like a hockey fight. Like sometimes hockey fights, the reason why they happen is because two skaters or two hockey players get in a confrontation because an enforcer or a player, they hit their prize winning guy. Like say if Sidney Crosby was skating around and somebody checks Sidney Crosby and the defenseman that's on the Penguins doesn't like it, he'll go over and fight that guy who checked Alexander, or he'll go over and he'll check the guy who fought or who checked Sidney Crosby, and he'll start a fight. And enforcers, all enforcers did was an enforcer was basically just a guy who would go out there and protect the main player. His job was to go out there and protect the main player by any means necessary, meaning that he would fight him. Like he would drop the gloves and just go to town. Didn't matter. Didn't matter where on the ice you were, but he would never take his skate off and try to stab somebody with it, because the referees will get into it just before it turns out to be, something to where you'd go to try to kill somebody, because killing somebody is not always someone's forte. No. And that's one thing that I don't understand is why people, people don't always want to kill somebody. That's not their repertoire. You don't want to go out there and always, you don't want to go out there and always kill somebody. No. What you want to do is you want to go out there and prove that you can win a fight. And here's another thing. So you remember, how in Street Fighter, like Chun-Li would fight Zangief. Now, Zangief is this big Russian fighter, and Chun-Li is this small little Japanese cop. Now, if these two people were to meet and fight, and the guy like literally kicked the crap out of the chick, or the chick kicks the crap out of the guy, it would be a really good match. It would be a really good match, because it would be two people that you'd never think that would ever be in the same ring with each other put in a situation. So, like, imagine if you're at a grocery store. You get a text message. What's up, Dewey? Imagine you're at a text. So you're a part of this fight club thing, or you're a part of this fight thing, and imagine you're sitting there at a grocery store, and one of the people who live in the same area is in that same grocery store with you, and you both get a text message, and you're within like a couple of feet from each other. So basically, it's like a Pokemon Go setup, and basically you're in the same setup, and then when you see each other, you look at each other and you go, okay, we're going to do this, right? And then a referee comes out of nowhere, and then someone's filming it on their phone, and then it goes to our Fight Club page, and it goes to our live event. So it'd be like a YouTube thing, and then it goes to the live event, and then they start beating each other up in like a Walmart. Wouldn't that be just like the coolest thing in the entire world? Like, imagine a street fight in Walmart, of all places, just throwing eggs at each other. Like, who comes up with this stuff? I mean, like, that would be just the coolest thing in the world. Like, you could basically, you could be just sitting there, and then all of a sudden it'd be like, dude, I'm supposed to fight this person, and I'm meeting up with them, and all of a sudden they come around the corner, and it's like, oh, we're doing this, right? And you have a shopping cart in your hand, and you take that shopping cart and you roll it into another shopping cart, and you shake each other up, and you're like, oh, this is good, and then you start fighting with each other. But you're not gonna fight each other to the death. That's the thing that you have to understand, is people like to fight, but they don't want to kill each other. And that's what they said in Fight Club too. They were like, well, what happens in Fight Club stays in Fight Club. But that was an underground situation. That was an underground world where they would fight, and then, after the fight was all said and done, they were friends. They would drink beer later, they would have a good time and what have you. Yeah. But everything happens for a reason. Everything happens for a reason. Everything goes down the way it does, and and it's it's pretty cool. And it's things that happen. You know, it happens for a reason. But I'm not saying that people are supposed to go out and fight each other because they want to fight each other, and if they don't want to do it, yeah. So one of the things, um, one of the things that would be funny too, is imagine, just imagine, right? Imagine if imagine if you two are in like in like a Cold Stone Creamery, yeah, and you're in a Cold Stone, and a fight's supposed to go down, and if you don't want it to go down in the place, you both say no, and they move on to somebody else because and you don't get deducted any points or yeah you don't get deducted any points or anything like that. You just get nobody to watch that fight, so they move on. But it's just one of those things that you have to think about, and I think it'd be really cool. And yeah, I know it's kind of gross to see me with my shirt off, but this is one of the things that you have to understand. I was actually sleeping and this idea came to me in my sleep, and you know it's something that is something that I would really like to happen. I would really love for like a collaboration for like a street fight, you know, because you gotta understand, like street. Imagine street fighting. Just it would be so cool. Street fighting would be like something really cool, but I don't know. I mean, after doing this, I probably end up getting probably end up minding my own business, and then somebody gets me in a street fight or something like that, you know. But sometimes you can just be at the wrong place at the wrong time, and things can happen to you. It's just one of those things. And but see, the thing is also this would be sanctioned. Yeah, it would all be sanctioned. So like the people who know about it are the people getting the text messages. They know, and the location that you'd be fighting at, they would know too that it was going down because because as soon as you see a ref come in and they go down, you know, it's if this person wants to really go down. If they want to throw down, if they want to fight, they have to fight. If they don't want to fight, they don't have to. It's in the contract. Yeah. And if you do fight, you gotta also understand that it'll be when a text message comes to you. So like if a text message comes to you and says, "Hey, I want to fight you," you can say, "Okay, let's throw down." And then you say yes, and then the other person has to say yes too. And as soon as that happens, the text message goes to the referee because it goes to the three people that are all involved in the thing. And then it goes to the guy who is filming the thing on his cell phone. So it is sanctioned. It is sanctioned, but the thing is that it's not like it's going to be the end of the world. Whatever. Oh, I don't know. It was an idea that came in my head, and I don't really think that anything's going to come of it because, I mean, we have the UFC, we have bare knuckle fighting. I mean, we have, WCW, ECW, we have WWE. I mean, we have all the big names, ACW, TNA. We have all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, so it's not probably going to happen. I mean, what's going to end up happening is that, you know, yeah, mean, and everything is choreographed too. I mean, wrestling's always choreographed too. I mean, it's choreographed, but sometimes it is also winging it too. Because sometimes people forget what they're doing, but and it happens because it's in the heat of the battle. But I mean, if you had things not choreographed and you just went out there and did it, I mean, people would be like, okay, this is legitimate. Because, a street fight's a street fight, dude. That's what it is. But I mean, I never really thought about it when I was thinking about it, because nobody ever thinks about this kind of stuff. I don't know, man. I don't know. I watch a lot of the TV shows. Like the one I'm watching right now is I'm watching this thing on um, I'm watching this thing on Netflix called Wrestlers, and it basically talks about the Ohio Valley Wrestling, you know, and the storylines and how they do their thing, and yeah, how everybody has storylines and how everything has to have, um, everything has to have its own way of doing things, and I think wrestling has its own kind of thing. I'd like to take a minute to pause for a second because I'd like to show something that I've actually been um, I've been I tried for the first time, and it's called IronsideDip.com, and these are called Berserker pouches. Okay, they're called Berserker pouches or IronsideDips.com. And basically, what they are is they're nicotine pet or not nicotine patches. They're caffeine. They're These are little caffeine patches. Yep. Yeah. And they go underneath your they go underneath your tongue. This is called Odin's Wintergreen. So far, the only place that I've seen these things available are IronsideDips.com. Um, the ingredients basically are salt, magnesium, um, potassium bicarbonate, caffeine, propylene glycol, natural or artificial flavors, microcrystalline glucose or cellulose. And basically, what you do is you put these things under the tongue. They're called Berserker. Yeah, they're called Berserker pouches. I use them. They're caffeine, is what they are. I bought a starter pack, which had 11 different flavors in them for like $65. Um, and, you know, I got a 10% discount because I put in my email address and I put my cell phone in. They have different kinds of things. I mean, they have Molinear Ice, they have Apple Danish, they have Mint Winterberry or Winterberry, they have Odin's Wintergreen, they have Mead and Honey, Eagle's Blood, they have Valhalla Vanilla, Kraken Cola, they have Red Deer, Swedish Fish, and Glacier Mint. So I got these 11 different flavors to try, and yeah, so they're really good. Um, they're basically just good for for basically caffeine. There's no nicotine in them. Yeah, there's no nicotine in them. There's no tobacco in them. Nope. Basically, it's just caffeine. It's just straight caffeine, and I use those all the time. So, but yeah, I like them, and Yeah, I use them. I like them. Um, but anyway, so the idea for the idea for this whole entire thing just basically came to me in a dream because you watch so many goddamn different fighting events and you watch. I mean, we just recently had the Royal Rumble. Yeah, we just recently had the Royal Rumble, and so I mean, we just recently had the Royal Rumble, and um, you know, basically the Royal Rumble is 30 participants go in, and they throw people over the top rope, and and you're eliminated if your feet touch the ground. So yeah, you're and you know, so so basically, um, so um, so basically, they have 30 contestants. Then these different, male and female wrestlers, they come out and then they fight in a big 30 battle royal. Now, imagine, if you will, if somebody, you know, had a street fight with 30 different people. That would get out of hand. Yeah, it'd get out of hand in a heartbeat. But mhm, you know, and um, so and so God damn it, I gotta pee. I'll be right back. So basically, if they had a 30 battle royal, I mean, if they had a 30 battle royal in a street fight, that shit would get out of hand in in a heartbeat. But imagine having a street fight like that. Mildred Burton. Okay. Thanks for watching. Um, but imagine if like a 30-person street fight happened in basically like in front of a fountain. And like some guy threw somebody in the fountain and they started fighting in the fountain and then they were kicking the crap out of each other and and somebody and like somebody was just like you know but you know why do you want to join my video? You don't get to join my video. You don't join my videos when we're talking on my show, because. The only reason mean, if you come on my show, you better not talk about anything like, stupid. You better talk about what's consistent of the show, because I don't know who the hell you are. I don't even know who you are. You're a person who followed me, and then all of a sudden, like, you wanted to message me or follow me or something. And I'm basically doing my podcast about an idea for a show that I had. And that's, yeah. But anyway, um, but imagine, if you will, a street fight breaks out between 30 people in a fountain, or like in Piccadilly Circus or Piccadilly, Square, and all these people are starting to beat the crap out of each other. There's like 15 refs, so they're making sure that nobody gets in trouble, you know, and and then people ended up fighting, and people ended up making it. They make it like out to be a really good, a really good thing, you know. But see, that's what everybody in this industry and everybody in this world, you know, they sit there and they think, well, is that going to happen? Is that going to ever turn around? Is somebody ever going to come up with an idea of something? I mean, like, you know, everybody wants to follow this. They call this um, the world where they make it, um, everything is about sex, you know, and everybody wants to, like, I've been on Instagram, and I've seen so many goddamn girls posting all these stupid goddamn videos about how they say they use four holes, they have fake cherries, they have soft cherries, they have a big ass, they have this, that, and the other. You know, imagine them talking, and then all of a sudden, like, some dude or some chick comes out of nowhere and just punches them and tells them to shut up. Like, I mean, wouldn't it be funny if, like, all of a sudden this chick's like, okay, question for the guys, and she's got a pool in the background. Imagine her, like, walking, and there's a pool in the background, and some guy comes out of nowhere and RKO's her in the middle of the pool and just splashes her in the water. And she's like, question for the guys. Now, would you date a girl who's 35, big cherries, uses all three holes, and then all of a sudden this guy comes out of nowhere and just grabs her by the neck and slams her into the water and just, like, RKO's her ass? I would totally fucking love to see that, because that would be just like the coolest thing ever. It would be just like, it would be just so badass, because, you know, because, you know, because some guy would come out of nowhere and then she hit the water, and then you hear RKO, RKO, or spear, 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 or something like that. And, you know, and, and then it, like, and then that kind of disappears, because there are so many things that happen in this world that nobody would expect. Like, imagine, like, this one guy sitting there and he's like, you know, like, if you like, this one guy's like all about wanting to pray or something like that and everything else, and if it comes to Jesus and everything, you don't mess with politics and Jesus, because that's two of the things that just kind of, like, ruin everything. But Imagine if you will, imagine if you will, some guy is sitting there. He's talking about he's talking about God, and he's sitting there, and he's like, you know, we all need Jesus. And then all of a sudden, like this this anti-Jesus group guy comes out of nowhere, and then he hits him with the Bible, and then he pours holy water on him, and he's like burning, like he's like not pretending like he's burning, he's just like and he's screaming or whatever. But but just but that's what everything has come to. I mean, back in the day, we had the Raw era, we had Stone Cold Steve Austin, we had Cactus Jack, we had all these different wrestlers that pretty much did things in a hardcore setting. But I remember, dude, nobody really talks about backyard wrestling, because like backyard wrestling was a bunch of guys that got together on the weekends and they filmed using just VHS camcorders, and they would make up their own wrestling. And the funny thing about it is that people would make up their own wrestling and they would do it. And hi Emily, what's going on? I couldn't sleep, so I had to do a video about my idea for a wrestling or a fighting show, and I had to get it out there. So I did a podcast, and that's what I'm doing. But yeah, you're catching me with my shirt off, dad bod, just giving you shit. Anyway, so we had an era back in the day, but this backyard wrestling thing. So what people would do with backyard wrestling is they would do their own things. They would go get tables, they would get chairs, they would jump off of trampolines. I mean, they would fight in pools, and they would do it in their backyard. And people would get hurt. People would get hurt. People would take barbed wire bats and hit people in the face with them. And I mean, the backyard wrestling thing was just something that was done out of pure and love and passion for wrestling, for wrestling and for the WWE and for all the different kinds of things that would go on. And they would they would do they would do all kinds of different fights. They would light tables on fire. I mean, they would slam people through the tables. And then ECW, then ICP, Insane Clown Posse, who I really into. I totally respect the hell out of the Insane Clown Posse. I mean, they're a different kind of people. I mean, they did the Oddities. They did the Oddities song for this group that was a different kind of people. They were like the freaks of the WWE. But dude, ICP was awesome, and ICP were actually wrestlers. Shake Too Dope and Violent J can actually fight. and I have total respect for ICP. I listen to their music, and people say, "Oh, Jack, you're weird for listening to their music, or you're crazy for listening to their music, or you're a nutcase." But I'm like, dude, who cares? It's music. It's respect. It's respect. It's total, it's cool. And I mean, I remember when we had that kind of wrestling, and the only thing that kind of wrestling was different than the WWE was that it was hardcore. It was in someone's backyard. And then what they would do is they would have a scene where a girl would be in a bikini or something like that, or she'd be naked in between the different matches. Now, people always say that sex sells, and people always say that, that kind of stuff is what you need in other things. Well, last night in the Royal Rumble match, one of the girls was wrestling. Yeah, one of the girls was wrestling, and she almost lost her top. They had a wardrobe malfunction, and it was in the Royal Rumble. It was in the Royal Rumble, and she lost her top, and then she went away out of the camera, and then they fixed her top, and then she continued wrestling. Yeah, she continued wrestling, and she went on like nothing happened. But they didn't film her putting her they didn't film her putting her suit back on or putting her top back on or anything like that or whatever. They went to the other wrestlers. Now, there's nothing wrong with that because the girl probably didn't want to be exposed like that. And if the WWE would have done that, they probably would have gotten a lot more exposure. But we didn't see it because the cameras were panned away and everything else. But what about the people who were actually live at the event? They saw everything. So they're filming it on their phones. And that's what a lot of people do is they film it on their phones. Now, if you watch NXT, NXT is a next level training for new wrestlers and the WWE and coming up in the thing. So what they do is they train male and female together. They use a coach who used to be like a legendary wrestler, and then they train and they're back and forth between male and female, but they wrestle each other at the same time. They're just practicing now. But everybody has to sell the fight sometimes. But see, in my wrestling match, in my fighting that I had in my dream, you're not selling anything because it's unscripted. It's unedited. It's unscripted. It's all it is basically two people receiving a text message wherever they are, and they're fighting if they want to do it. Yeah. And if they don't want to do it, we can't make them fight. It's their choice to. Yes. And the thing is that people have a scoreboard, you know, and if they proceed in the fight, they get 10 points. If they don't do the fight, they lose 5 points, or they lose 10 points. But it's just the way things are. But you have to go and you have to do this. And I know that there's probably going to say people they're going to tell me that I'm, is it like male and female fighting each other? Isn't that kind of weird? No, it just depends on how hard you want it. And women can fight other men. I mean, there are relationships. There are relationships that people don't see behind closed doors sometimes, where men and women go at each other all the time, and it's called abuse. Yeah, and husbands and wives, they abuse each other all the time. But I say that hitting another woman is not cool because, you know, hitting each other is not cool and fighting is not cool. But, you know, we watch wrestling all the time and that happens. And that's sanctioned all the time. That's sanctioned. But sometimes they have to do things that's unsanctioned and that's unedited, and they just do it out of the kindness of their heart. But they have to try it. But everybody has to try to always do something where they have to do something where they always show more excitement, or they always show more, something that is going to make more and more people come to the shows, or more and more people love the thing. But see, here's the thing. with the fighting okay, so basically what this is this was a dream that came to my head and I had to share it on my podcast, which when things come to my head, I have to share them because that's how I want to do it, because I like to share things, and I'm not asking for money. I'm not asking for anything because I don't even think this is even going to take off. I don't think it's going to go anywhere because I'm not a big name. I'm just a low end splash of the pan kind of guy. And I just had an idea for something that came up and figured we'd go from there. But so I also concentrate too much on being Santa Claus because that's what I also like to do is Santa Claus and stuff and Camo Claus, and I love doing that. But this is about what I had for an idea. And I mean, but see, everything happens for a reason. Like these backyard wrestling matches, when they had backyard wrestling, what they would do is backyard wrestling, they would just pick two guys and they would go after each other, or they would have two girls wrestle each other. It was never female against male. It was always male and male, female against female. That's what it was. And they would just go hardcore and beat the crap out of each other. That's what they would do. But see, this thing that I have for an idea would be male versus female, female versus male, and it would just be a match that just like at a drop of a hat. You're either in or you're out. Yeah. And it would happen where you are. So like say you're at a barber shop, okay? Barber shop's a little bit, hardcore because there's scissors and there's things you can cut people with. But okay. But if you get rid of the scissors and the being able to cut somebody and just having a match where you could just have two people kick the crap out of each other. Yeah, life and death of professional wrestling is basically what it is, and and you would just have a fight that would basically have two people in the middle of a middle of an area, and they would go at each other, and that's how it would be. Instead of a ring, we would use a street, or we would use a shopping center, we'd use a mall, we'd use, and that would be kind of cool. But I could see where people would go, oh, that's not going to happen, that's not going to happen because there'd be so many people around. Yeah. But I'm going to go back to bed because it's 1:30 in the morning, and you guys are probably tired of listening to me and probably tired of seeing what I have to say. And also, you're probably tired of seeing me with my shirt off. I mean, I know that's a very gross thing. Do you want to know something? I had to do this because I had to get this out there. Because basically what this is it's an idea that I had in the back of my head for it didn't matter. It was an all-out hardcore kind of backyard street fight that should happen, and if it did, it'd be cool, but I don't know where the hell it would ever go down. So anyway, if you guys have any comments on this, just comment on it. If not, I understand. But thanks for watching and have a good morning.